Ethan couldn't sleep that night. He lay awake in his small apartment on Mars Station 9, the dull hum of generators filling the silence. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that alien woman's face, those calm, glowing eyes, the strange way she said his name like she already knew him. He had missed his dream interview, lost his only chance, and yet something inside him refused to feel regret. 2 days passed and he went back to his repair job in the lower docks, working on broken cargo drones and old freighters. The same dull gray walls, the same flickering lights, but his thoughts were elsewhere. He kept wondering who she was and why her ship carried both human and alien tech. That wasn't normal. Then one evening as he was closing the workshop, the lights flickered. A small orb drone floated through the door, silent, glowing faint blue. Ethan frowned. "Workshop's closed," he muttered, wiping grease from his hands. The orb hovered closer and projected a holographic message. The image that appeared made Ethan freeze. It was her, the same alien woman, her silver cloak flowing like mist. Her voice was calm, melodic. "Ethan Cole, report to docking bay 47, midnight," she said. "Come alone." Before he could respond, the orb blinked and vanished. He stood there stunned, his tools clattering to the floor, his heart pounded. Was this a trap, a prank, or something bigger? Midnight came too fast. Ethan grabbed his toolkit, just in case, and headed to docking bay 47. The area was dark, quiet, with rows of empty hangars. He stepped forward cautiously, the echo of his boots filling the air. Then he saw it. A sleek silver ship, smaller than most, its hull shimmering with alien symbols, and beside it stood the same woman, Lyra, her eyes glowing softly in the dim light. "You came," she said, almost sounding pleased. Ethan nodded, trying to hide his nerves. "You didn't exactly leave me a choice." "You could have ignored the message," she said, stepping closer. "Most humans would have." He gave a small shrug. "Guess I'm not most humans." Lyra tilted her head, her expression unreadable. "Indeed you are not," she said. "I need your help again." Ethan blinked. "My help? With what?" "The ship's auxiliary systems are failing. The stabilizer control refuses to sync with the neural core," she said, gesturing toward the craft. "I need someone who can see beyond the rules." Ethan looked at the ship, then back at her. "I'm not sure I should," he said cautiously. "Last time I helped you, I lost my job." Lyra smiled faintly. "And yet you came." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "All right. What's the issue?" Inside the ship, the air smelled faintly of ozone. The walls pulsed with energy, alive in a way human ships never were. He crouched near the control panel, examining the wiring. It was advanced, way beyond his training. But he noticed something, a small pattern that didn't fit. "You've got a feedback loop," he said. "Your neural core is rejecting the stabilizer's code. It's like trying to run two minds on one brain." Lyra watched him work, her eyes following every movement. "How would you fix it?" Ethan hesitated. "Well, normally you'd reprogram the stabilizer to match the core, but that would take hours, maybe. Maybe I could bridge them manually, trick them into thinking they're one system." "That's dangerous," Lyra said. "You could overload the entire network." He grinned slightly. "Yeah, but it'll work." He grabbed a handful of connectors, linked human circuit boards with alien cores, and began typing rapid commands on the console. Sparks flew, alarms blared for a moment. The ship trembled like it was alive and in pain. Lyra's eyes widened. "Ethan, almost there," he muttered, his hands moving faster. He could feed. Full heat on his skin, circuits glowing red, then suddenly, silence. The hum changed, becoming smoother, deeper, alive. The lights along the ship turned a steady blue. Systems stable. Ethan exhaled, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Told you it would work." Lyra stared at him for a long moment, her expression softening. "You risked destroying the ship," she said quietly. He shrugged. "You said you needed someone who could see beyond the rules." Lyra's lips curved into a small, rare smile. "I did," she said. "And you just proved I was right." Ethan laughed weakly. "So what now?" You disappear again? But she shook her head. No, Ethan Cole. This time, you come with me. He froze. Wait, what? She turned toward the ship's command deck, her cloak flowing like liquid light. Your kind always says you want opportunity, yet when it knocks, you question it. I just want to know what I'm stepping into, Ethan said carefully. You still haven't told me who you are. Lyra paused at the ramp, her gaze fixed on the stars outside. You'll find out soon enough, she said softly. For now, think of this as your second interview. Ethan blinked, his heart skipping a beat. Interview? You're with Novacor? Her smile deepened, mysterious and knowing. Something like that, she said. Board the ship, Ethan. He looked at her, then at the stars reflecting off the hull, and for reasons he couldn't explain, he obeyed. As the ship lifted off, the city lights below became distant flickers. His stomach turned with the sudden acceleration. Lyra stood beside him, watching him silently. You gave up your dream to help a stranger, she said. Let's see if that dream was truly yours, or if you were meant for something greater. Ethan didn't reply. He just stared at the endless black beyond the viewport, the stars stretching into light. His instincts told him that this was no simple test, and that this woman, this alien, was about to change everything he believed about fate. Far below, on the planet's surface, Novacor's headquarters pulsed with golden light. So, where deep within, encrypted files updated themselves automatically. Subject, Ethan Cole. Status, candidate accepted. Phase 2 initiated. The next morning, Ethan woke up to the soft hum of the ship around him. He blinked in confusion, the metallic ceiling above him glowing faint blue. For a moment, he thought he was still dreaming. Then he remembered, the alien woman, the strange ship, the sudden liftoff. He sat up, rubbing his head. The bed beneath him wasn't a normal human bunk. It shaped itself around his body, adjusting automatically. The air smelled like ozone mixed with something floral, alien. There were no windows, only shifting walls of light that responded when he moved. Good morning, Ethan Cole, came a calm voice from nowhere and everywhere. It wasn't Lyra, it was the ship. Hi, he said awkwardly, looking around. Where am I exactly? You are aboard the vessel Etherian, currently in low orbit above Orion Hub, the voice replied. Captain Lyra requests your presence in the central chamber. Captain, Ethan repeated, shaking his head. Right. He found his boots, pulled on his jacket, and followed a series of glowing arrows that appeared on the floor. The corridors twisted like veins of light, silent and alive. Each step he took echoed faintly. He felt watched, but not in a threatening way, more like the ship itself was curious about him. When he entered the main chamber, the sight stole his breath. It wasn't a command deck. It was a cathedral of glass and starlight. A panoramic window stretched across the wall, revealing the planet below, swirling with clouds and shimmering cities. Dozens of holograms floated in the air, symbols, maps, and data streams Ethan couldn't begin to understand. Lyra stood at the center, her cloak gone, replaced by sleek armor lined with silver threads that pulsed like veins. She turned as he entered, her gaze soft, yet commanding. You slept longer than expected, she said, her tone almost teasing. Sorry, Ethan said. Didn't know I'd be sleeping in a spaceship last night. You adjusted quickly, she replied, then motioned for him to come closer. Look. She gestured toward a hologram, a projection of the Novacor tower, towering over the planet like a blade of light. At its top glowed the same crest he'd seen on her armor. Ethan frowned. Novacor? Why are you showing me that? Lyra's expression shifted slightly. Because that is where your story should have begun. But fate decided otherwise. He frowned, not understanding. You mean my interview? She nodded slowly. Yes, the interview you missed. Ethan let out a small laugh, though it sounded hollow. Yeah, well, I doubt they're still waiting for me. Lyra stepped closer, her eyes glowing faintly. What if I told you that your actions that day were noticed, she said, that someone was watching? Ethan stared at her, confused. You mean Nova Corps was watching me? Not Nova Corps, she said softly. I was. The words hung in the air, heavy and unreal. Ethan blinked, trying to process. You were watching me? She nodded. You see, Nova Corps' future isn't built only by intelligence or skill. It's built by heart, empathy, and courage, qualities that cannot be measured in a test or resume. He took a step back. So what? Helping you was a setup? You were testing me? Lyra's tone softened. No, Ethan, it was not a setup. I was stranded that day, but I saw how you reacted. You could have walked away, like everyone else, but you didn't. Ethan's jaw tightened. I missed my dream job for that. Lyra smiled faintly. No, you found your true one. Before he could respond, the chamber's lights flickered. The holograms around them shifted to red. The ship's voice cut through the silence. Warning. Unauthorized signal detected. Proximity alert. Lyra's calm vanished. She moved to the control console with fluid precision. They found us, she muttered. Who? Ethan asked, stepping beside her. Rival faction, she replied, her voice steady but cold. They've been trying to infiltrate Nova Corps' hybrid projects. They fear human influence. The hologram displayed 3 ships closing in, sharp, insect-like crafts with red plasma signatures. Ethan's heart began to race. You mean, they're after you? Lyra's eyes flicked toward him. After us, she said. Hold tight. The ship tilted sharply. Ethan stumbled, grabbing onto a nearby rail. Outside, streaks of light flashed past as Etherian banked hard to the left. The sound of plasma fire echoed through the hull. Can't we hide? Ethan shouted. Lyra's fingers moved across glowing controls. We're trying, but they've locked on. We can't jump while within orbit. He looked at her screens, the flickering alien code, and something clicked in his mind. That's a recursive lock. They're using quantum pulse feedback, he said. Lyra's brows lifted in surprise. You understand this? Barely, he admitted, but I can jam it if I bypass the ship's AI loop. That could disable life support, she warned. Ethan smiled wryly. Guess it's a good thing I don't follow rules. He darted to a side panel, wires and conduits glowing beneath his hands. He worked quickly, instincts guiding him more than logic. Sparks flew as he rerouted power. The ship shuddered violently. Then the alarm stopped. Lyra glanced at the radar, her eyes widening. They lost us, she whispered. Ethan exhaled, falling back against the console. So, did I just save the ship? Lyra looked at him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she smiled, genuine this time. You did more than that, she said softly. You proved that fate rarely makes mistakes. Before Ethan could speak, the hologram of Nova Corps' crest reappeared, glowing gold, lines of alien text rearranged into words he could read. Candidate Ethan Cole, statue. Elevated access, granted. Proceed to Orbital Tower Prime. Ethan blinked. Wait, what does that mean? Lyra turned to him, her voice calm and full of something deeper. It means your real interview begins now. The ship turned toward the glowing spire of Nova Corps far above the planet, engines roaring like thunder. Ethan stared out the window, feeling his chest tighten. He had no idea what waited for him there, but one thing was certain. This was far bigger than a job. It was destiny, wrapped in mystery, and it had just chosen him. The silver ship Etherian sliced through the dark above Orion Hub, silent and graceful. Ethan stood near the viewport, staring down at the glowing planet below. His reflection shimmered faintly in the glass, half lit by starlight. He had never been this high before. The curve of the world stretched beneath him like a living jewel, clouds glowing softly over continents of metal and light. He glanced back at Lyra, who was studying data from a floating console. The light from it washed over her pale skin, painting her in shades of blue. Her calm face looked almost human, yet there was something ancient in her eyes, something that made Ethan's chest tighten. So, he finally said, trying to steady his voice, are you going to tell me what's really going on? Lyra looked up, her gaze steady. You're about to see for yourself. Moments later, the Etherion approached an enormous structure floating above the planet. It wasn't just a station. It was a city suspended in orbit, rings of light spinning around a tall central tower that reached toward the stars. The name burned in gold across its surface. Nova Core Prime. Ethan stared in awe. That's the main headquarters. Yes, Lyra said quietly, and it's time for you to meet its heart. The ship docked smoothly, metal petals of the hangar opening to welcome them. Drones drifted by like silent guardians, scanning the air. The moment the ramp lowered, Ethan felt a weight in the air, a mix-on of tension and importance, like the space itself was watching him. As they walked through long halls of shimmering light, Ethan noticed how every worker they passed, human and alien alike, paused and bowed slightly to Lyra. He frowned. They treat you like... He hesitated. Royalty. Lyra's lips curved faintly. They respect leadership, she said, and legacy. They entered a vast chamber at the top of the tower, walls made of crystal glass, beyond which stars burned like living fire. Holographic displays surrounded a massive circular table, and standing around it were beings from a dozen worlds. Some had scales, others wore armor of light, but all turned and bowed as Lyra entered. Ethan stopped cold, his breath catching. Okay, what are you? Lyra walked to the center of the room, her posture straight, her expression serene. I am Lyra Arel, Chief Executive of Novacore Industries, she said simply, and in some parts of the galaxy, a member of the High Council of Elysians. The words struck him like thunder. Wait, you're the CEO? The Lyra Arel? The one who founded the Human Integration Program? She inclined her head slightly. Yes. Ethan felt dizzy. You're telling me I helped repair the ship of one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy? Lyra smiled softly. You didn't help a CEO that day, Ethan. You helped a stranger. That's what mattered. The council members around the table watched silently as she continued. Humanity's entry into the Galactic network was built on trade and technology, but our alliance is fragile. There are those who believe humans are a mistake, too emotional, too reckless. Her gaze shifted toward Ethan, her eyes bright with something like fire. That's why I've been searching for someone different, someone who can remind both sides that heart and logic are not enemies. Ethan swallowed hard. And you think that's me? I don't think, Lyra said softly. I know. A hologram flickered above the table, showing the damaged Novacore shipyards, ships torn by explosions, data streams corrupted. Lyra's tone darkened. Our systems have been under attack for months by a rival faction that opposes human involvement. We need someone who understands both sides, human ingenuity and alien technology, your repairs, your instincts, your courage. They're exactly what this mission needs. Ethan blinked, still processing everything. You're offering me a job, he said slowly. Lyra nodded. Not just a job, Ethan, a purpose. He hesitated. Why me? There must be thousands of engineers better qualified. Lyra stepped closer, her voice lowering. Because when everyone else walked past me, you stopped, she said. You saw a person, not a species. That kind of sight can't be taught. The chamber fell silent, the hum of alien machinery echoing like a heartbeat. Ethan looked around at the watching council, his palms sweating. He had dreamed of standing in Novacore for years, but never like this, never as someone being chosen. What happens if I say yes? He asked quietly. Lyra met his eyes. Then you will become part of the Unity Project, a joint human-alien fleet meant to reach the outer systems and protect new hybrid colonies. And if I say no? Lyra tilted her head slightly. Then you go home, and someone else, less worthy, takes your place. Ethan exhaled slowly, staring out at the stars beyond the glass. His whole life he'd wanted a chance to prove himself, to be seen. And now the universe was handing him that chance, but it came with danger written all over it. Finally he looked back at her. All right, I'm in. A spark of satisfaction flashed in Lyra's eyes. Good, she said. You'll begin immediately. The table glowed, projecting a schematic of a massive vessel, sleek, curved, unlike any ship Ethan had ever seen. Its name pulsed in blue. Letters. Unity 1. Lyra's voice turned solemn. Remember, Ethan Cole, Nova Corps was not built by wealth or technology. It was built by choices like yours, choices born from heart. Ethan smiled faintly. Then I guess it's time to see where this heart can take us. As the council watched, the ship's image shimmered brighter, and the stars beyond the glass seemed to draw closer. Lyra extended her hand, her tone both formal and warm. Welcome to Nova Corps, Chief Human Engineer. Ethan took her hand, feeling the weight of the moment settle deep in his chest. The air hummed softly around them, as if the galaxy itself was listening. Somewhere deep within the tower, hidden systems came online, programs updated, codes rewritten, and a quiet voice whispered through the mainframe. Unity protocol activated. Ethan didn't know it yet, but accepting this offer had just placed him in the center of a war that would decide the fate of both species. The hangar of Unity 1 glowed like a living sunrise, the air humming with power and promise. The ship itself stretched across the bay like a silver spear, its hull woven with both human titanium and alien crystal fibers, energy pulsing faintly beneath its surface. It was more than a vessel. It was a symbol of trust. The first creation born from two species working as one. Ethan stood beneath its massive frame, awe shimmering in his eyes. It's beautiful, he whispered. Lyra stood beside him, her cloak flowing lightly. It's hope made real, she said. The first of its kind, part human soul, part Elysian precision. He glanced at her, smiling faintly, and both of them impossible to manage. She actually laughed, a soft musical sound. That's why you're here, Chief Engineer, she said, to remind us that impossible doesn't mean hopeless. The following weeks blurred into constant motion. Ethan and his team worked day and night, integrating systems, syncing cores, teaching alien AI to understand human logic, and vice versa. He slept in the hangar more often than in his quarters, surrounded by blueprints and glowing tools. Every time exhaustion hit, he found himself thinking of Lyra. She wasn't like other leaders. She didn't give orders from a throne. She walked among them, worked beside them, spoke to engineers by name. Even the humans who had been nervous about working under an alien began to admire her. Still, something in her gaze always seemed distant, like she carried the weight of galaxies in her mind. One night, while running system diagnostics, Ethan noticed something strange. The ship's central database was showing encrypted code lines that weren't part of his programming, hidden loops that activated every few hours. He frowned. That's not standard, he muttered. He traced the signal through layers of firewalls deeper into the system until he found it. An alien signature, not Elysian, not Nova Corps, but something else, darker, more aggressive. Unauthorized access attempt detected, the ship's AI intoned. Ethan's heart skipped. He tried to isolate it, but the lines were rewriting themselves, adapting. It was like fighting a ghost in the machine. Suddenly, the power flickered, alarms flared red. The entire hangar trembled. Containment breach, someone shouted. Lyra appeared moments later, stepping through the haze as technicians scattered. Ethan, report, she commanded. He pointed to the screen. It's not a malfunction. Someone's in our system. They're overriding the reactor safety protocols. Lyra's eyes narrowed. Who? I don't know, Ethan said, fingers flying over the controls. But they're good. They've buried their signature inside your AI encryption. Then the deck shook violently, a blast tearing through the far wall. Ethan was thrown off his feet, the air filled with smoke and sparks. Through the haze, he saw fire spreading near the fuel conduits. His instincts kicked in. He ran toward it, ignoring the shouts around him, grabbing a coolant hose, spraying. Gee, the flames! Lyra followed without hesitation, shielding a group of workers behind a kinetic barrier, energy flaring from her gauntlet. Get them out! Ethan shouted. Lyra turned, her cloak singed by heat. Not without you! The floor split with another blast, metal shrieking. Ethan barely rolled away as a section of the ceiling collapsed. He coughed through the smoke, hearing her voice through the static. Ethan! He saw her trapped behind a fallen beam, flames crawling closer. Without thinking, he sprinted toward her, ignoring the pain in his leg. He gripped the beam, muscles straining. "Hold on," he growled. Lyra looked up at him, her face smeared with dust. "You can't lift that," she said, her tone calm despite the chaos. He grinned through clenched teeth. "I've been told humans are stubborn." With one last push, he forced the beam aside, helping her to her feet. She stumbled, clutching his arm. "You're injured," she said. "Just a scratch," he lied, blood staining his sleeve. Together they stumbled out of the hangar as the emergency doors sealed behind them. The alarms faded, replaced by the low hum of containment fields activating. When the smoke cleared, the damage was catastrophic. Half the ship's internal systems were offline, and 3 technicians were missing. Lyra stood in the silence, her fists clenched. "This wasn't an accident," she said, voice low and furious. "Someone wanted to destroy Unity 1 before it launched." Ethan limped toward the console, pulling up the corrupted files. "I found their entry point. They used a relay node inside our communications system." Her eyes flicked to the data, and her expression hardened. "Rival faction," she said. "The consortium. They've declared war on our cooperation." Ethan looked up at her. "So this is bigger than sabotage." Lyra nodded. "Much bigger," she said. "They fear what Unity represents, a galaxy where humans and Elysians work as equals." He frowned. "And what now?" Lyra turned to him, her gaze intense. "Now we rebuild. We finish Unity 1, stronger than before." She paused, then added quietly, "And we protect what we've started." Ethan met her eyes, and for a moment, he saw something in her he hadn't before. Not just command, but vulnerability, the kind that comes from carrying too much for too long. He gave a faint smile. "Then let's finish it together." Lyra's voice softened. "Together," she repeated. As they stood there, side by side amid the wreckage, a faint pulse of light flickered deep within Unity 1's core. The ship's AI whispered in a tone neither of them noticed. "Adaptive protocol engaged. Unit linking. Ethan Cole, Lyra Arel. Compatibility, 97.3%. Outside the hangar, the stars burned brighter, unaware that this single act of sabotage had just forged a bond that would shake the foundations of the galaxy. 3 days after the explosion, Unity 1 still hung silent in its berth, half dark, half lit, the glow of repair drones drifting like fireflies across its wounded hull. The air inside Nova Corps' orbital city was heavy with tension, whispers carried through corridors. Human technicians worked beside Elysians in uneasy silence, every sound of welding echoing like a heartbeat in a sick room. Ethan hadn't slept. His hands were wrapped in bandages, his eyes red from exhaustion, but he refused to stop. He had rebuilt half the damaged circuits by himself. Yet even as he worked, he knew something darker was coming. The sabotage hadn't just been an attack. It was a message. He was tightening a bolt when a drone descended beside him, projecting Lyra's insignia. "Ethan Cole, report to Council Chamber Prime," it said. He froze. "The Council?" The drone's light blinked once. "Attendance mandatory." He followed the corridors upward, past marble bridges and shimmering pillars of light. The path narrowed into a vast chamber that opened like the heart of a cathedral. Hundreds of beings filled the seats in a spiral arow, and a central dais. Each radiated authority, eyes glowing, skins of every color and pattern. At the center stood Lyra Arel, dressed in her ceremonial armor, silver and black, her expression calm but cold. The air crackled with tension. Ethan hesitated at the entrance. He could feel the weight of 1,000 gazes, every alien eye turned toward the lone human who had dared step into their domain. One of the counselors, a tall, horned being with gold eyes, rose first. His voice boomed through the chamber. "Lyra Arel, you stand accused of violating Council Code 7, unauthorized fusion of human and Elysian technologies. Do you deny this?" Lyra's voice rang steady. "I do not deny. I defend it." Murmurs rippled through the room like thunder. Another voice, sharp and cold, followed. "Defend it? You allowed a human, an untested species, to access classified systems. Because of this, Nova Corps has been attacked. Lives lost." Lyra turned her gaze toward them, unflinching. Because of this human, those lives were saved. The chamber went still. Her words struck like lightning. Ethan's heart pounded as Lyra gestured toward him. "Step forward, Ethan Cole." He did, his legs trembling slightly. The counselors leaned closer, their expressions unreadable. "This human," Lyra said, her voice rising, "acted when no one else would. He repaired what others feared to touch. He risked his life to save mine and to protect the project you now condemn." The horned counselor sneered. "Heroic sentiment, but sentiment is not governance. Humanity's compassion is weakness disguised as virtue." Ethan's jaw tightened. "With respect, sir, that's wrong," he said. His voice shook at first, but he forced it steady. "You think compassion is weakness, but you're standing here right now because someone once showed you mercy. Every species that survives does so because someone decided to care." Gasps echoed around the chamber. A few humans at the edge straightened with pride. Lyra's lips curved slightly, the faintest smile. The elder counselor's eyes glowed brighter. "You dare lecture the council?" "I'm not lecturing," Ethan said. "I'm reminding. You asked why Unity 1 should exist. The answer's simple, because we need it. Because you'll never see what humans can do until you give them a chance." A new voice, softer but older, spoke from the shadows. "You speak boldly, human." An ancient Elysian stepped forward, her eyes like twin moons. Her presence silenced the room. "I remember when our kind first met yours. You were fragile, impulsive, yet unpredictable." She studied Ethan carefully. "And you, what do you seek in all this?" Ethan met her gaze. "I didn't come here to be a hero or to prove anything. I just saw someone who needed help, and I helped, that's all." The old Elysian nodded slowly. "And yet, that is what the universe needs most." Lyra lowered her head slightly in respect. The elder turned to the others. "We have seen power destroy worlds, intelligence build empires, but empathy, true empathy, builds futures." Silence filled the hall again. Then a single sound, applause, soft at first, from one of the human delegates, then another, then the Elysians beside them joined. The spiral of seats lit up one by one, colors blending like dawn. The horned counselor scowled but sat down, defeated. The elder raised her staff. "The council's decision is made," she declared. "Nova Corps' Unity project shall proceed. Humanity shall retain its seat among us." Ethan felt his knees weaken with relief. Lyra exhaled softly, the tension melting from her shoulders. She turned to him. "You spoke with courage," she said quietly. "You spoke with heart." He smiled faintly. "Guess that's the only thing humans have that can't be downloaded." Lyra laughed softly. "And perhaps the only thing that can save us all." As the chamber lights dimmed, the council's sigil shimmered above them, a ring of GT, old and blue entwined. For the first time in history, two species stood side by side, not as rivals, but as equals. Far beyond the city, Unity. One powered up, its engines glowing like the birth of a star. The hum echoed through space like a heartbeat, steady, defiant, alive, and somewhere deep in its core, the ship whispered a new phrase in both human and alien tongues. Unity recognized, alliance confirmed, heart and logic synchronized. The stars stretched endlessly outside the viewport, glittering like frozen embers. The Unity 1 drifted in silence, her engines idle, her hull reflecting the pale glow of 1,000 suns. For the first time in months, there was peace. No alarms, no explosions, only the hum of possibility. Ethan Cole stood on the bridge, his hands resting on the polished console. He could still feel the faint vibration beneath his palms, the rhythm of a ship that was more alive than machine. Behind him, the quiet murmur of human and Elysian officers filled the air, voices blending, different languages sharing the same purpose. He turned slightly as the doors slid open. Lyra Aurel stepped onto the bridge, not as a CEO or a commander, but as someone carrying quiet pride. Her silver armor was replaced by a simple dark uniform, the same insignia as is glinting faintly on her chest. "Systems report stable," Ethan said softly. "She's ready." Lyra moved closer, her gaze fixed on the stars ahead. Do you realize what this means, Ethan? He nodded. Yeah. Humanity just got its boarding pass to the galaxy. Lyra smiled, faintly. Not just humanity, she said. Us. Together. The bridge fell silent as the crew turned to their stations. The official transmission came through. Council authorization for launch, the symbol of unity glowing in gold. Lyra took a breath, her voice calm but resonant. Crew of Unity 1, she said. Today we make history, not aboard. As Elysians, not as humans, but as one. The words hung in the air like a vow. Ethan felt a lump in his throat. The woman who had once been a stranger stranded beside a broken ship now commanded the most advanced vessel ever built by two species who once feared each other. He leaned close to the console and whispered to the ship's AI. You ready for this, girl? The AI's voice answered softly. Always, Captain Cole. Lyra glanced at him, eyebrows raised. Captain now? He grinned. Temporary promotion, only for launch. She laughed, shaking her head. Very well, Captain. The lights dimmed, the engines began to glow, a soft vibration spreading through the decks like the pulse of a living heart. Outside, the docking arms released with a deep metallic sigh. Engage core drive, Lyra said quietly. Ethan's fingers moved across the panel, energy blooming from the rear thrusters, beams of blue and white arced through the dark. The stars seemed to stretch, reality bending around them, and then they jumped. For a moment, there was no up, no down, only light and sound, and the sensation of falling into infinity. Then, silence. The view outside shifted, distant galaxies swirling in colors no human eye had seen before. Alien constellations burning like living art. The bridge erupted in applause, cheers echoing through the comms. Lyra turned slowly, her eyes shining. We've crossed beyond mapped space, she said. You've done it, Ethan. He smiled, tired and proud. We've done it. Lyra stepped closer, her gaze softening. You missed your dream job, remember? He chuckled quietly. Yeah, turns out the universe gave me a better one. She looked out the viewport again, her reflection merging with the stars. When I first met you, I thought you were ordinary, she admitted. But humanity keeps proving me wrong. He gave a half smile. It's what we do best. Outside, the ship's sensors picked up something. An anomaly ahead, swirling energy waves unlike anything recorded before. Ethan squinted. You seeing that? Lyra nodded slowly. A worm field, unstable but navigable. Ethan turned to her. Orders? Her voice was calm but firm. We go through. He blinked. You sure? She met his eyes. Every great journey begins with a risk. He hesitated only a second, then nodded. Then let's make history. The Unity 1 angled toward the glowing vortex, light rippling across its hull like liquid fire. As it neared, the bridge trembled, alarms flickered, yet no one panicked. Humans and Elysians worked side by side, hands flying across controls, hearts beating as one. Through the storm of color and lightning, Ethan felt something deeper, something beyond science. It wasn't just a mission, it was a statement that two species could choose hope over fear, trust over power. The vortex swallowed the ship whole. When light returned, they were no longer above Orion Hub, no longer within charted stars. Instead, an endless field of golden clouds spread before them, stars like diamonds drifting through rivers of light. Lyra's voice trembled slightly. No maps, no charts, no boundaries, she whispered. We are the first. Ethan turned toward her, his heart steady. Then let's leave something worth following. The Unity 1 surged forward, engines blazing, cutting a path through the unknown, its emblem, two interlocked rings of gold and blue, shining brightly on its hull. Behind it, the stars whispered silently of a new beginning, and in that boundless stretch of cosmic light, a single truth echoed across both human and alien hearts. Humanity's greatest power was never its strength, but its heart.